Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go. Welcome to a side chat. This is earlier in the month than you would normally have a side chat. As I mentioned at the end of our episode on Tuesday, I'm doing this out of order on purpose because
you probably didn't notice.
You didn't notice. You wouldn't have even cared. This is normally supposed to be an interview with a normal person. Never you fear. We have one of those coming up next Friday. Normally, I don't like to do two interviews back to back. I like there to be some, contrasts, shaking it up. But it just made sense for us to do this side chat on this day because today is the last day of our holiday passion profile short course promotion, which we'll talk more about at the end. But we'll give you a little code too at the end if you don't already know it. But it just made sense for us to talk about this today because we decided we've never really done this on the podcast. And this is what we're known for. So it was about time for us to do a conversation about the passion profiles, have a debrief about all four of them, and where this came from, how we came up with it, what the heck is the point of this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So before we get into all of that, I want you, if you have not yet taken our passion profile quiz on our website, clarityonfire.com, pause right now.
It'll take you 5 minutes.
To any more of this until you pause and go take the quiz. It's 11 questions. It's very quick.
You have to put your email address in. That's not because we're stealing your email address. I'll have you know it's because I have to make sure you're not a robot. Would you believe the number of creepy ass robot emails we get every day?
Oh my gosh.
We need to talk to our developer about how to not keep getting those. But let me just tell you, there's a lot of offers for free, hot, wild sex in your city.
Or weight loss programs. We get a lot of those too.
And I don't need either of those things. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we don't need any more robots sending us emails and getting on our email list. So,
I just don't know who clicks on those. Like, who thinks, yes, sign me up? There's definitely a real woman on the other end of this who really wants to hook up with me. That's happening.
I know. It's so weird.
Okay.
So anyway, we want you to go take this quiz. We will ask you for your email address, but the only way you actually get on our email list is if you click the confirm button in the email we send you afterwards.
No, you have to open the email first and then click the confirm button.
Right. If you just put your email address in and then don't do anything else ever, you won't ever hear from us.
Why are you listening to this podcast if you don't want to hear from us?
But I want to tell people this because we also sometimes get hate mail from people who think that we're stealing their email address, which I don't even know what that means.
That's because they didn't read, and that's on them. So if you're literate and not lazy, that shouldn't happen to you.
This is a tangent. All I want you to do is go take the passion profile quiz because otherwise this conversation won't make a lot of sense. Or if you've been following us for a long time, we've got some people who have been with us for years. Maybe you haven't taken it in 3 or 4 years.
Your
go back and take it.
It can change, and we'll talk about that. And maybe you've taken it and you're like, great, stop talking. I already understand my passion profile, but you might not have taken any of our courses or worked with us one-on-one. Most of you have not worked with us one-on-one. That's a very small sliver of people. So there's a good chance that you understand yours, but you don't know what the other possibilities are. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because for those of you, especially who are new to Clarity on Fire and who are really intrigued by the whole concept of passion profiles, but don't understand the full breadth of it, this is who this conversation is especially for.
Yes.
So for those of you who have heard this a million times, I apologize. However, I'm going to keep on talking. So you don't have to listen to the rest of this if you don't want to. Okay.
So do you want to give them a little overview about what a passion profile even is?
Well, let's first answer the question, where did it come from? Because I get a lot of people asking that. How did you come up with this quiz? Like, where did this even come from? Because I've never seen anybody really talk about this the way you guys talk about this. I hear a lot of people talking about how do I find my passion and just like go after your passion. But not many people are talking about the intersection between your career and your passion as a distinct, separate thing from what your passion actually is.
Right.
So
the beginning of this story is a little bit embarrassing,
yeah.
considering that we are coaches, so we're supposed to...
Well, this was 4.5, 5 years ago.
This was a while
Give
back.
us some credit for being younger and more naive.
So where this originally came from is Rachel and I are what you will find out later. We are at least in part Firestarters, which we will explain, which tend to be very entrepreneurially driven. And because of that, we had wanted to have a business of our own for a long time because of the freedom, because of the autonomy, because we could do it how we wanted, the way we wanted, with nobody overlooking or telling us what to do. And we thought that just sounded amazing and perfect. And why would anyone not want that?
Yeah, like why would you willingly go to a job every day when you didn't have to, when you could just have your own job?
We didn't understand that because that's not how we're wired.
No.
And so when we would talk to people, we would be like, well, but you probably would want to do that as a business, right? I mean, maybe not externally, but in their heads.
No, I never told someone that they should start a business when they didn't really want to.
But we thought that people were wired the same way as we were.
Well, that's a normal human thing to assume that if you think some way, then everyone must think that way, which is obviously not true. What we came to realize over time and a lot of coaching was that, oh, no, we're wrong. Not everyone wants to just quit their job and start a business. Also, how would that work? If everyone quit their job and started their own business, then I guess we'd just have a world of contractors, but we wouldn't have any employees anymore. I'm not sure the world would function very well.
No.
So it's actually normal for some people to want to have a job, which is wild in my mind. But I'm glad that for some people that's actually true because I think it helps the world spin around.
Well, and the more people we coached, we realized there are plenty of people who genuinely really want this. And I would think about people in my life too, not just clients. And I would think about family members and friends who were happier when they were in a certain kind of setting.
When they were working for someone else.
Right. Or if they were working in a totally different way, maybe like a side hustler way, which we'll explain, with a variety of different tasks. So we were saying, wait a minute, not everyone seems to want to work in the same way.
Yes.
So what's going on here? Because there's got to be some patterns, and it would be really helpful if we could help people figure out what category they fit into in terms of how they want to approach working.
Yeah. So I was just sitting around one day. It was the evening. You don't need to know these details. I think it was June. Maybe it was, I don't know. I think it was maybe earlier than that. But anyway, I knew we wanted to create a quiz, but I had no idea what I wanted it to be about. And I just had this idea. And I just started, I don't know, I whipped out a notepad and I just like drew an XY axis and I just started writing things down and labeling things. And it wasn't quite right at first. But then I think when I showed it to you, we started brainstorming it more and then we got it more accurate. And what we realized was that there are some interesting patterns around how people want to combine their time and their money with their passion. Those are the themes that kept coming up over and over and over again. And what we figured out was that a lot of people are making, and this is like the most important, this is one of the most important points about passion profiles right here. People are making a mistaken assumption that if they don't like their job, that there must be something wrong with them, or that there's a mismatch between them and the content of the job. Like, I thought I would really like this and I don't, and I'm confused.
Right. I think I don't like what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't like what I'm doing. Maybe I should try something else. And it's often a huge letdown, especially if you've spent like many years of your life educating yourself or preparing to do something and you just don't like the content, the what of what you're doing at all. And what we found is that a lot of the time, it's not the what, it's the how. And that often people are just jumping to blaming what they're doing instead of first questioning, is how I'm doing it right for me? Is how I'm doing it aligned with who I am? So for example, I use this example a lot, but that's because it's the most relevant and it's about me and Kristen, so I don't have to use anyone else as an example. But Kristen and I like what we do. We like writing, we like podcasting, we like coaching people. If, however, you employed either one of us to do this job, a very similar job, not the same job, in an organization where we had to get up every day, be there from 9 to 5. We had to commute. We had to report to someone else. We had to get our
we had to wear
podcast ideas.
We had to wear pencil skirts.
Sure. Well, you couldn't fit me into one of those these days. The waist to hip ratio just does not work. No, but if you gave me an employer who had to sign off on all of my project ideas, and I was only allowed to be sick 10 days a year, and I had to ask for permission to go on a vacation, I would be so angry. I would be resentful. I would hate it. Not because of what I'm doing, because of how I'm doing it. And so this is what the passion profile system, first and foremost, helps you discover, is not what your passion is, because I know we're all obsessed with that. Like, it's this cool, shiny object, and it's a lot sexier.
Well, because then you could describe, I'm this, or I love this. It's harder to be like, I like working in this particular way. That's not as sexy of a conversation starter.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's a sexy conversation starter because I'm into
We're trying to change the game.
Well, I'm into personality assessments, So if someone's like, I'm an INFJ, I'm like, ooh, me too. Tell me more about that. But you know what I'm saying. But it gave us a way to actually give people a one-word moniker to describe that aspect of themselves.
Yes.
So we're going to get into what the 4 possible results are and a little bit, a little bit about what each of them kind of has in common, how they're different. And then we'll get into a couple, most common questions and things that arise too.
Right. Okay, well, let's just jump in.
All right.
So there are 4 profiles, as we said.
Yes.
And
4 possible results, though you can have a secondary profile, and we'll get into that later.
Yes, we will get into that. We tend to always talk about them in the same order, so I'm just going to go with our normal order of things.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's just we've gotten into the habit.
I see them in a grid, and I know where they are in my mind, and that's it.
So I'm going to start out with Firestarter, and I'm going to describe... I think for each of them, I would say they have a main value, one that tends to umbrella over the whole profile.
It's not like it's the only one. It's the one through which they tend to see all of the others. It's kind of the lens.
It's their unique.
It's the filter that they see things through.
Everyone probably values all of these things, but if you're in that profile, you value it to an extreme.
More than the others would.
Correct.
And we'll also say where we got the names for each of these.
Yeah, that's right.
Because the Firestarter was not our word first. Danielle Laporte has an awesome book called The Firestarter Sessions, which is a book about entrepreneurship, and she's a real Firestarter. So that one is dedicated to Danielle Laporte.
Yeah, got to give credit where credit is due. Mm-hmm. So Firestarters, if I had to say what their number one value is, it would be freedom. And that can look like freedom of time. That can look like freedom of choices and creativity and money. And I want to get into those 3 components that we talked about before in each profile: the money, passion, and time. So for Firestarters, it is crucial that their passion is connected to what they're doing for work, for pay.
Like, it can't just be a thing they do in the evening sometimes. They work best when their passion is the thing they do
as their career,
as their job.
So that has to be intertwined. That's first and foremost. They need all of the time or all of the freedom of their own time. So a Firestarter would possibly work more hours for themselves than they would work for someone else.
Because they're the ones in charge.
As long as they get to choose when and how they're working.
That autonomy is huge.
This is not about, I don't want to work. This is about, I want to work in my way, on my time, with no one telling me when I have to be somewhere. Yeah. If I want to work at 2 a.m., I can do that. If I want to take off a day, I don't need to tell anyone.
They're real resentful of other people telling them what to do and when to do it and how to do it and where to be.
Same thing with their money. They like to have no cap on how much they can earn. They like to have a lot of freedom in their earning potential. And so they tend to get frustrated if they have a stagnant salary and they have to wait on someone else to tell them when they are allowed to earn more money.
Right. Why can't they be in charge of how much money they make?
Right. So you can imagine that I'm not going to say all Firestarters need to be entrepreneurs, but you can imagine why they're attracted to that
And
lifestyle
they often
because
can't find a job that gives them that degree of freedom unless they're the ones like fully in charge of the whole business often.
yes. So a lot of fire starters tend to be at least entrepreneurially curious, if not full on dedicated to business ownership in some way,
Yeah.
because they're a little bit rebellious when they're in a setting where they're told what to do. And they have way too many ideas and sometimes way too much passion and need way too much autonomy. And that's just not always possible.
And they're very mission oriented. So they really have a hard time buying into other people's mission. And that's
Right.
where their value around passion is. I will work very hard for myself. If it's something I care about and it's my idea, it's my baby, I feel really invested in that thing. If I have to work really hard for someone else's mission, it chafes at me. It's because it's not my thing.
Yeah, I had that experience. I'm
Yeah.
a part fire starter, and I worked for a job for a few years out of college that I actually really did believe in the mission. It was about higher education and promoting higher education to students and matching them with the right colleges. And I was doing writing, which I also love. It seemed like it should have been a good match, but I just didn't care that much because even though I could buy into the mission, it wasn't mine. I wasn't doing it the way I would have done it.
Well, yeah.
It wasn't my original idea. And I
Plus,
couldn't care as much.
You had to be there from 9 to 5, and you didn't really have much of a choice about how your schedule was built. And
how much I could earn,
Yeah,
all
no,
of that.
there
It
was
all
no-
structured and set for me, and
Yeah.
I hated that.
yeah. So that's a fire starter for you. We could go into more detail, but like, again, we have a whole course for that. So
Yep.
this is a podcast episode. Okay. So tribe members. This one, I don't think so. Seth Godin wrote a book called Tribes, or Tribe or something like that, which was really popular. He's a really famous like blogger and marketing expert. And I don't know if he's a tribe member. I highly doubt it. He's probably a fire starter.
I think he is, yes.
But we read his book and liked it. And I think that it gets to the core of what tribe members are all about, which is, I think their number one value is connection or community, whatever you would call it. Kind of same word.
Yep.
Different meanings. So tribe members, seen through the lens of connection and community, the way they value their time, I'll start there, is that they're usually a lot more flexible and open and tolerant about working a more traditional work schedule and working for someone else because they don't like risk and instability, and they don't have a high tolerance for it the way a fire starter would.
They also don't want to have to figure out the logistics of all of that.
Like,
They
where's
like
the money gonna
stepping
come
into
from?
a preset system where they can focus on what the work that they feel called to do and not so much how to run all the logistics of a business.
Yeah.
That's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah,
It
and
feels
it
like
also-
it crowds up their mission.
Yeah, it's distracting. You and I can speak to that. When you run your own business, you spend more time running the business often than you do the actual work of coaching or, whatever it is your business is. So,
And that's frustrating to a tribe member.
right. And so also because they're so motivated by the people and the connection that they don't necessarily want to do something solo on their own. Not that, when you start, if you were to be entrepreneurial, doesn't mean you can't do it with other people, but it is often a more independent venture. And so I think the team and the connectedness is what really gets them going. And that's easier to do when you're part of an organization that has a shared mission. So with money, again, because they value stability and structure and predictability a lot more, they are often happier to just receive a paycheck and know that it's coming every 2 weeks, so long as obviously they're being compensated well and they are, happy with their benefits and all of that. I think that they're way more okay with sort of that traditional salaried structure. And when it comes to their passion, or at least how tribe members see passion, again, it has so much to do with a team of committed, engaged, excited people working together toward a shared mission that they all really care about. And so because of this, tribe members, maybe more than any other profile, I've seen this be true so often that they care a little bit less about what they're doing and they care so much more about who they're doing it with. And so I've met a lot of tribe members who are happy to do any number of things if they can do it with people and in an environment that's really healthy and that's excited and that's engaged and that's like a family.
Yeah, I would say that I've seen two subsets of tribe members. That's one of them. And another one needs that, but they also are, that sense of connection also really applies to the mission. And so I see a lot of tribe members who might be interested in like the nonprofit world or something where they feel like I'm doing something with my team, but also for the greater community.
So I would say that, yeah, I mean, obviously, like if you're working for like the Marlboro factory.
Oh, right.
And you've got a bunch of engaged people, which they don't. I'm 100% sure they don't. But obviously, the greater mission also has to be something that a tribe member can buy into. It can't just be about the people, but that often, if they are bought into the bigger mission, then the daily sort of ins and outs of what they do, they're way more open-minded and flexible to that being any number of different things because of the fact they're doing it with those cool people.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's a little, I mean, I want to talk more, but I'm not. Because
there's so many nuances that we just
Plus,
can't.
you can read your own profile for more information about yours particularly that we're not getting into. Because we have a whole like strengths and drawbacks and, you know, that kind of stuff that we're not getting into. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so the third one is thrivers. Now, thrivers are some of the most misunderstood people
We
I
made
have
this
found.
word up, kind of. I mean, we didn't make it up, but like this wasn't dedicated to any book or thing that we read.
No, I don't think it came from anywhere in particular.
No, it's just people who like to thrive. Don't we all? But in a particular way.
Right. So the reason that thrivers tend to be misunderstood or feel more broken is because I'll start with I guess I would say their most important value is fun.
Enjoyment, I would say.
Yeah, fun maybe sounds a little bit like you're like going to Disney or something.
Like I'm part thriver, and I don't think you would describe me as like fun-loving, but enjoyment, yes.
Yes, very, very much so. So they are the inverse in one big way of the two profiles we just described when it comes to their passion.
Yeah.
Instead of wanting and needing their passion to be combined with their work, which Firestarters and tribe members both need.
Right. They need to go to a job every day that they feel passionate about.
Yes. Thrivers don't necessarily want to make the thing that they're most passionate about into their job because for them, it tends to strip the intrinsic joy out of it. So if you really, really love, I use this example a lot. I have a client who loves surfing. And so we talked about the possibility of her becoming a surf instructor. And she's a thriver. And she thought about that lifestyle and said, I think I would start to resent surfing. I think I wouldn't like it as much anymore if I had to do it for a certain number of hours every day and my livelihood depended on it. Mm-hmm. She wants to do it purely because it brings her joy and she loves it. And she doesn't want to feel a sense of obligation tied to her passion. And that's how thrivers feel about their passion. They don't want any obligation tied to it. They just want it for pure enjoyment. So they are a little bit more similar to tribe members when it comes to their desire for stability, when it comes to their time and their money.
Yeah, so and predictability.
Yes, they like to have predictable hours. They don't want to overwork because that steals time from their life outside of work, which is where they really enjoy themselves the most.
Yeah, thrivers' worst nightmare would be having to work like 60 hours a week when they should only be working 40.
Right. Or if they don't know when they're going to work and they have unpredictable hours and they can't plan their life around it because that's so important to them. So they need predictability in number of hours, in scheduling. They like to have predictability of their money so that they can, because if think about it, if their passion is happening outside of work, their job is kind of like their sugar daddy or their suger mama, right? So paying for their life. Now, I can hear some of you right now saying, oh, so they can just get any old job? No.
There has to be a baseline enjoyment factor.
None of these profiles are saying you can just get any job and it doesn't matter, or that you can have a job that you don't really like and it's fine.
No.
Obviously, thrivers want to have a job where they feel very competent. They don't want to feel a lot of pressure or tons of responsibility.
It's sort of like the worst thing you can put on a thriver.
Yes. Very low pressure, fun job with great people that they love, where they're doing things that they like, that they care about, but it doesn't have to be the end-all be-all for them.
No, because that's not the point of, like they can have a job they feel good about, but not, oh my God, I'm falling over in amazement about the way a tribe member would want to, because a thriver has their passion outside of work. That's the whole point.
Right.
Yeah.
So any other big points you want to make about thrivers? I think that
I would
Those
say
are the
that
highlights.
honorable mention of words that they resonate with is also balance.
Yeah.
Because of how important the work-life balance thing is. It's so important that a thriver be working a job where they feel that they can clock in and clock out literally and mentally in a way that Firestarters and tribe members rarely clock in and clock out. I mean, physically they might, but often a Firestarter never stops thinking about the thing that they're passionate about because it just is their mission and it's their, it's their whole purpose. And a thriver, especially with their job, they're like, no, I don't want to think about that past 5 o'clock. I have all these other things I want to do and think about past that time.
That's a really good point. They don't want to, they want to leave work at work.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to answer emails when they get home, or they also like to have plenty of days off where they can
First of all,
take
none
trips,
of us
or they
should be
can
answering emails when we get home, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But thrivers tend to be the most turned off by the lack of boundaries around work and home life.
Definitely.
Okay. And then we have side hustlers. So a side hustler is, I would say, their primary value, the thing through which they see and kind of measure everything, is variety, followed closely by stimulation. So these are your people who I've rarely met a side hustler who was not very energetic and just liked.
There's a few. There are people who have raised their hand and been like, I think I'm weird because I'm not an energizer bunny, but
most of them, and they, first of all, they might not be 100% side hustler, those people.
Right.
The 100% side hustlers, I think you can identify them because they have a hard time making a decision ever. They just want to choose everything. They don't want to choose just one thing. They have a hard time narrowing things down because they really value possibility too. So because they value variety and possibility and stimulation so much, and they have a hard time ever being bored, like they get bored very easily.
Oh, yeah. They hate being bored.
Their value around time, everything is changeable. Their values around time, money, and passion are all changeable because they don't like to choose just one thing. So more than any other profile, they're very multi-passionate. So that means that the way in which they combine their career with their passion is more up in the air than any of the other ones. It can be any number of different things. So with their time, it could be I work 2 different jobs and that's how I make an income. And I'm really happy with that because I never get bored because I'm bouncing from thing to thing. Or it's I have one job that I go to, but that job itself has a ton of like variety and it's very project-based or something, and I'm doing different things every day. So I'm never really getting the chance to be too bored. So you can combine it however you want with work, but there needs to be variety regardless of how you do that.
Yeah.
And the same
it's almost
goes
like
with
how
money.
much variety do you need? Can you get variety in the same place and that's enough? Or do you need it literally from multiple different places?
And sometimes that might be you have a job, but then you also have a volunteer position outside of work. And
or
you
a
also,
side hustle.
Or you actually have a side business. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about piecing together the ways in which you work and the way in which you make money. And so when it comes to your passion, when it comes to side hustlers, again, multi-passionate is key. So that means that you have permission to not just choose one thing. And that's really important because most side hustlers I've met feel guilt and shame around their indecisiveness and around not wanting to just pick one thing.
Well, people tell them all the time, oh, just do what you're passionate about. They're like, yeah, that's 18 things.
Well, right. And that's also one of their weaknesses in that you can't literally pick 18 things, but you are allowed to pick more than one. And so that means that you're allowed to have a job and have a side thing that you're passionate about and maybe do something else, even an extracurricular or a volunteer thing. And not only is it probably smart, but it's probably even healthier for you to get your passion, to have multiple passions in different areas of your life, because that, again, stimulates that need for variety and you not getting bored.
Yeah. If you're a side hustler and you pick one of the things that you're passionate about to do all the time, you'll start to hate that thing because you'll get bored of it. It'll start to get stagnant. So it's actually important for you to foster multiple of your passions in different ways.
Okay. So that's a very quick overview, like a 15-minute overview of the 4 possible options that you can get when you take the passion profile quiz. So I want to also get into a few very basic questions that come up frequently when people take the quiz or when they hear about the 4 passion profiles. So one of them is, can you have more than one?
Yes.
Yes, you can. But
Rachel
you cannot have more than 2, and we will explain.
Rachel and I are 2. We are a combination of 2, so we're a perfect example. And
we're fire thrivers, which is one of the worst. It's such a hard combination.
It's a hard one.
Imagine this. You're both entrepreneurial and you hate working for other people and you don't want anyone to tell you where your money comes from, but you're also enough of a thriver that you like stability and predictability and you don't want to have to run your own business. Whoops. What do you do? Well, that's part of the problem with having two is that often your needs and values start to clash and it becomes a little bit more of a dance to get your needs met and to make sure that you're honoring both aspects of who you are.
Right. So as someone who has two and has to balance them, I can tell you there are times where I will feel that there's an out of balance situation. So I might feel like, ooh, I've been leaning harder on my Firestarter and my Thriver is like raising her hand being like, hey, give me attention. Give me some, like, you're not honoring me. Yeah. And vice versa. So it's important for you to check in and say, maybe they don't need to be perfectly balanced. You might not need 50% of your time to be in one and 50% of the other.
Equality and balance aren't the same thing.
Exactly. But you'll know when you're out of balance because you'll start to feel like one set of values is not being met in favor of the other one. And it's starting to feel bad. And you might just need to recalibrate a bit.
But a lot of people aren't even going to know if they have a secondary profile if they're just listening to this and they're new. So one way to tell is that you've taken the quiz and you've gotten different results. So if you've gotten reliably like two different results, I would say that that's because you're got one or two, you've got a secondary and it doesn't honestly, it doesn't matter if you know exactly the breakdown. Like I'm 58% one and whatever percent the other. It's more important that you just recognize if you have one or if you have more than one so that you can understand the similarities, but also potentially the value clashes.
Right. Another way is if you read through your profile and you think, oh, this is mostly me, but there's a couple of things here that don't quite feel right.
Yeah.
That might just be because there's a part of you that resonates with another profile. You have a secondary. If you read your profile, which a lot of people do, and they say, yep, that's me. You nailed it. That is me to a T. I relate to all of that. Then don't try to force yourself to have a secondary.
Yeah. Or if you've never gotten a different result when you take the quiz.
Right. There's plenty of people who are just fully
just one
in one category, and that's fine. But we like to talk about secondaries because there are some people who feel a little conflicted, and that's
me
okay.
being one of them.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's okay. Another question is, does this change over the course of time? Or over the course of your lifetime? Can your passion profile change?
Yes, it can change because essentially a passion profile gets down to your value system. And I don't think this changes every other week by any means, but big life events can create a shift in
just
values.
Aging and maturing, first of all, can change your value system. What you're willing to do and how much time you're willing to invest in something can change. But big life events like, turning a certain milestone age or getting married or having kids, all of those things can fundamentally shift your value system, which therefore shifts, your profile and the way that you see your life and the way that you want to combine your work with the way you make money and what you're passionate about. Do I think that anyone's ever going to do a full 180? No. I think that if you do make a shift, it's likely you had the seeds of that potential in you already. Maybe you had a secondary and then it sort of switched, like your secondary became your primary and your primary became your secondary because of some life event. And I think Kristen and I are a good example of that because I think you and I started out identifying way more as Firestarters. And over time, it's balanced out to the point where I often feel more like a Thriver than I do a Firestarter.
Agreed.
And
I used to think I was pure Firestarter. I remember the day where we realized, oh my gosh, there's some Thriver going on here.
Yeah, that's because we thought we were bad Firestarters. And then we realized, oh no, we're not bad Firestarters. We're just Thrivers who are trying to run a business. And we're not doing a great job of it sometimes because we don't enjoy it the way a real Firestarter would.
That's another good way to tell if you have a secondary. If you feel like you're kind of a bad Thriver or a bad tribe member.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah. If you feel like you're not quite doing it right, it's probably because there's a different value system that you're not aware of underlying it.
Right. But in terms of them changing, I have had, just as an example, I've had a client who felt much more like a tribe member, had a baby, and then said, I always felt a little bit entrepreneurial, but that's just gotten a lot stronger because I have this strong desire for freedom now, like I never had before because of my child. And so her Firestarter kicked in high gear, and she started to figure out how to run her own business after that. So things like that can change your priorities around time and money and passion and all of that. Or like you said, it could just be time, the passing of time.
I think that was a whirlwind, but good enough.
So that was
overview of
20
the passion.
minutes, and we have over 5
we've
hours.
We've been talking for 35 minutes, but
I wanted to give you an example. I wanted to give them an example of that was us scratching the surface. We've got 5+ hours of content in the course about this.
Yes.
So if you feel like there was more that you wanted to dig into that we couldn't get to, that's just because this was an overview.
Yeah. So let me shift gears for a minute and talk about how to tell if you're in a career setting right now that is not right for your passion profile. I think the number one indicator is that you feel like there is something wrong and you can't put your finger on what it is. And you keep trying things and never quite managing to figure out what you're doing wrong. Or if you feel like I'm kind of broken and I don't know if I'll ever like working, and maybe this is just how it is and I can't seem to figure out what's wrong. If you're saying any of that to yourself, it's very likely because you are working in a way that does not actually align with your passion profile. Now, it may very well mean that the thing that you're doing, the content is not right for you either. Because sometimes that happens where you're not only in the wrong job for your passion profile, like you're a fire starter stuck in a thriver job and you're miserable. It might also be that the content of what you're doing is something you don't care about and that's not aligned with you. But it's so important to make sure that to get clear on what your passion profile is first. And the reason that is because until you understand the way that you are wired, then you will keep trying things that may never, ever align with who you are. And you might keep blaming yourself when you need not be blaming yourself. This is, again, I've used this analogy so many times. I will use it again because I like consistency. But this is like, Michael Jordan retiring from basketball and playing golf. And he was like a mediocre golfer. And it's not because he was a bad athlete. It's because it just wasn't his sport. And if Michael Jordan had only ever played golf, he might think he was only a mediocre athlete. He might never realize, no, I'm actually one of the best athletes of all time. I just was not playing basketball. And I think a lot of people are the Michael Jordan golfers right now. They're like, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not happy? Why am I not great at this? And it has nothing to do with you and your innate talent and abilities or your capacity to feel joy and fulfillment. There's nothing broken about you. It's just you're not in the thing that aligns with who you are and how you're wired. And if you were to go and find that environment, then all of a sudden you would feel so much more capable and so much more at ease. And it would be such a relief. And you might not yet know exactly what you're meant to be doing, but at least you'd be playing in the right sport. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay, am I a point guard or am I a center? I don't know all the basketball positions anymore. I forgot. I used to play in high school, freshman.
Too deep into sports analogies.
But that's a good analogy, I think. Is that like, okay, let's get you in the right sport at least. And then from there, we can move on and figure out what more specific position and ability do I have within this sport. But we got to get you in the right arena. Some of you are way off in left field. That's a baseball analogy. Got it?
Or like you were alluding to, sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's how you're doing it and also what you're doing.
And you're playing the wrong position. You're just spinning around in circles out there.
Then you're just completely miserable and you probably feel
You might as well sit
stuck.
down and start picking daisies in the outfield.
Which is how I approached sports as a kid. So I'm familiar. But there's some of you who might... Another way to tell if you're in the wrong passion profile is if you thought, I thought I would like this. I thought I would like what I was doing. I thought I liked writing, or I thought I liked math, or and now that I'm doing it, I don't actually know. I don't know if I like it. Well, it might not be.
Or I should like this. Everyone else seems to like this. Why don't I?
Right. Or I liked studying this in school, but I don't seem to like it now that I'm in the real world, or something along those lines. If you feel like I thought I would like this, but it turns out I don't, there's a chance that you actually do like it. You're just doing it in the wrong way.
Yes.
In which case you might have the what correct, but you start questioning whether you're doing the right thing because you're doing it, again, as a side hustler in a tribe member job.
Yes, for sure. So, okay. If these are questions that you are interested in getting answered, like you identify with being potentially in the complete wrong arena and you're spinning around in circles or you're, making daisy chains in the outfield because you have no idea, you just don't know what else to be doing, then this is why we brought up this whole conversation this week, because today is the last day for our holiday promotion of the Passion Profile short course, which is where we spend 5-ish hours giving you, it's totally do-it-yourself, audio video lessons with pauses and workbook prompts directed by us to get you to the point where you are clear on what your passion profile is, including potentially your secondary profile, and how to sort of evaluate where you are now in sort of comparison to what your passion profile is and see where am I mismatched, and then what would need to change in order for me to get into a situation where I am aligned, like me and my career are actually aligned. And then how do I look for jobs and actually change my direction based on my passion profile? That's the whole point of this course, is to get the how right, how you're meant to be working, right? So then you can focus on what you're meant to be doing.
Yes. So if you have been feeling stuck and you have no idea where to start, this is one of the most helpful places to start, because like Rachel said, if you don't even know what sport you're supposed to be in, you can't choose the right position.
Yes.
And if you've been trying to find the right position, I don't even know. I'm trying to think of a baseball position versus a
shortstop.
They're not even the same.
Versus a point guard.
They're not even called the same thing. They don't do the same thing. You're going to be so overwhelmed.
It doesn't make any sense.
To use a different analogy, we have so many analogies. If you're thinking about your career direction on a map,
a compass
of a map, then let's at least get you north or south, or
let's pick a cardinal direction.
Put you in the,
or even like northwest.
Yeah, northeast. Maybe we'll get you even more specific than that. But once you're there, then you can start to plot a more specific route within that direction.
And you can cross off 75% of the things you've been considering because they don't actually align with your passion profile, and they're never going to make you happy.
Yeah.
Even if they sound nice and shiny, they won't make you happy. If you're really stuck and you just feel like the compass is broken and the wheel is just spinning round and round and round and round, this will save you so much time and energy because you no longer have to just kind of guess and hope that you get it right.
Yeah, this is going to seriously help you eliminate options that were never going to work for you and recognize what options might be a good fit for you.
Okay.
So that's huge. So this is something that you could do within one day. If you sat down and just worked this course through, you could do it in a singular day, or you can do it over the course of a month or 6 months.
Well, no, don't take 6 months. That's silly.
You would lose your momentum, but you could do this fairly quickly. And the reason we're doing it now is because it's right before the new year. So this might give you
we only do a promotion on this like twice a year.
Yeah, this might get you prepared for 2019. If you know you're unhappy and you want to make a change, you could get moving on that very quickly with this course.
Okay. So the details will be in the episode description. There will be a link to the short course page where you can read more about it and sign up if you want to. The code is for $50 off until the end of 2 days. So if you're listening to this on Friday the 14th, till the end of today, Eastern time, so like 11:59 p.m. Eastern time in the US, then you can get $50 off with code HOLIDAY in all caps, we think. We're not sure, but try it in all caps.
Do it in all caps to be safe. The word is holiday. I don't know if lower caps will work.
Lowercase.
Lower caps.
There's no such thing as lower caps. Okay.
So until the end of today, you can get $50 off. And if you purchase the course by the end of today, the 14th, you will also be registered to join us for a video live hangout Q&A session on January 11th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And you can bring us all of the questions that came up for you while you were taking the course. So we're giving you plenty of time to actually take the course. Bring us all your questions.
Well, because it's the holiday season and you might, be traveling or something. So we want to give you a lot of time to make sure you get it done so that you can bring some questions to us, which you can submit ahead of time or bring to us live when we do it on January 11th, which is a Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Right. If you're listening to this and it's past Friday the 14th, this course is still available.
Yes, you're just paying $50. You're just paying the normal price instead of the holiday price.
So don't feel like you have missed out. This course is available 24/7.
And let me be clear. This course is, in my opinion, very inexpensive for the amount of content and value you get out of it. I got to be honest. I see what other coaches charge for their courses. People easily charge $500 or $1,000 for something that is this size and time length. I think that's kind of insane. And as much as people would probably tell us to charge more, I don't intend to, because I think that people need a place to get started. And if this is all you can do right now, then this is going to be a hell of a lot better than doing nothing.
I want this to be accessible to a lot of people because I think this is so important. I think it's why so many people are unhappy.
Yeah.
So I don't want to put this out of reach for the vast majority of people. So even if you're paying $50 more, it's still a very reasonably priced course.
And you can split it into 2 payments. And that's true for you holiday peeps or you normal peeps.
Right. If you're not like on your podcast game, which I listen to podcasts days later sometimes, so I get this.
Kristen's
don't feel I get behind on my podcast. I will admit it. Don't feel like, oh man, I totally missed out on this.
No.
You can still join us for this.
This is always available. And again, you can do it up front, which is a little cheaper, or you can do it in 2 payments, which gives you like a whole month in between, I think, payments, so that, you can do like 100 and some and then 100 and some. And so it's easier. Okay. So again, code is holiday, all caps, through the end of today. And then if you sign up, we'll send you a link to register for that free Q&A that we're doing, Q&A workshop. And we'll let you know how you can submit your questions ahead of time. And for those of you who have already done one of our courses, either of our courses, or worked with us one-on-one, and you want to join that Q&A workshop too, or you want to get the replay of it later, then just email us at contact@clarityonfire.com and we will send you a link to register as well. Because, just because you didn't sign up.
You're part of the family now.
Right. I mean, you're already here. Why not join us? Okay. So that was a lot of words. We will see you on Tuesday with a blog. I think it's a new blog from me, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's right.
I think it is. And I don't know what it's going to be about yet, because this is like a couple weeks in advance that I'm saying all of this.
We'll all be surprised.
Woohoo. Okay. Well, I'm going to put this out there and hope the universe gives me a good idea between now and then, because I don't know what the heck to talk about. Okay.
Oh, well, hopefully we will see some of you in the short course. Again, link is in the episode description.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see you again on the podcast on Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.